This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me once again with Rev Bill. This is part 2 and I appreciate that you're coming back. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'll put a link to that in the description. But in part 1, we talked about this spiritually transformative experience, a rainbow experience, quite interesting, fascinating stuff. And we're going to dig in a little bit more with that experience and then ask some questions now in part 2.
I saw things, I learned things, which if you ask questions, maybe they'll come up or not, I don't know. But there was so much information I had. Talk about an overload. I mean, it was so much. I cried for 3 days. I mean, I was just weepy for 3 days because I'd lost so much coming back. I was told, you can't talk about this. I was told you can talk about this at some point in the future, but not now. I was told you don't understand this yet. Wait. Or you're not going to remember this. We will remember it for you when you need it. And so I came back with all these levels of remembrance, knowing that I went into that room. Why did I go in that room? I don't remember, but I know I went in that room for a purpose. So I went into that. So it was like, I know there was something taken out of that experience that I'm not given the ability to recall, which was frustrating. Because for about 4 months, every night I dwelled on that. I go, wow, that was like the ultimate. It explained a lot. And then it was 7, 8 years later. I had a friend I was talking about this. I was still calling it this rainbow thing, but I didn't know what rainbow body or nothing. And maybe it was 15, 20 years later. Guy says, have you read this book? This woman wrote it about this nun this lady channeled this nun that was dead. And on the other side, she talks about these rainbow communities and described it like a what? And how I'm going, what? I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'll probably remember it. And if I remember it, I'll send you a little message on the name of the book. But it was, so that kind of put it together. So somebody sent me a copy of the book and I read it and I go, yeah. So I come up with that without ever having read the book, know anything about it. But it was the same, somebody's trying to subscribe exactly what I was talking about, this rainbow body where people live and teach, music or teach philosophy. But this group was a spiritual group. It was just spiritual evolution and working on it for a whole planet. But the only way you can cover a whole planet is you still got to do it one at a time. You still got to do the individuals. And when you get a change in the base, how many people, the critical base, whatever you call it, the critical mass, it doesn't take 50%. It could be 5% or 2% if the critical mass is really powerful. Like right now, people wonder why we haven't had World War III since 1946. I mean, we've had all these things happening. So no World War III. We haven't dropped atomic bombs since 1945. Why? Because there are giant spiritual people of light. Some may be in a cave in the Himalayas. Some may be in Tibet. Some may be in Germany. Some may be in Florida, Atlanta. They could be a householder. They could be a wife. They could be whoever. You don't know who these beings are because the great ones, this separates me from the great ones, I'll tell you that. The great ones don't tell you all these great things they do. They don't say, I'm an avatar. I'm this, I'm that. I'm humble too, right? So the great ones, they just humbly say, I'm just a man, just a woman. Someplace they're radiating this love that's so much greater than the hate. Love will cancel out hate. Right now with Israel and the Palestinians and the Gaza thing and all these things going on in Ukraine, Russia, name your conflict. It's all about hate. Love, people say, well, send them love and pray. It does work. Question you got to say, it could be worse. Yes, it could be much worse. Right now, it could be terribly worse. So sending love and sending prayers, if you really want to help people, love them and love yourself. Starts there. You are the temple of God. You are that individual rainbow body. Grow it, nurture it, build the frequency, build the volume of love till it overflows. And that love is what's being shared by this great rainbow body out there that I speak of. And I was, when I was with the rainbow body, that was family. That's why I cried. It was like I left my family. I know that we're all one, but this was a piece of the one that was shining and special, and everybody had a purpose. And so that rainbow body experience was more changing than any near-death experience. This was taking the veil of separateness and just lifting and saying, it's just that tiny breath of I-ness. It's just that semblance of an identity that separates you from your true self, which is one. People ask me what I believe. I said, I just believe in one. What? I said, one moment, one now, one place, one created, one creation, one. It's just one. It's just love. The one is love. Everything else is a variation of that. Because people go, they read the Bible and they go, everything was made in God's image. Man's made in God's image. Well, look at man. They're all over the place. They look crazy, right? And I go, no. If you take man and you blow him up and look at the atoms, you blow up a rock, there's atoms and molecules. You blow up everything, a plant, everything is made of the same building blocks. Atoms. People get down as quarks, but basically there's just these atoms. Everything's a building block. All the building blocks, whether it's an animate object, if it's organic, if it's a mountain, or if it's a tree, or if it's a dog, or if it's a person, all got the same building blocks. Only thing that changes is how they're put together. It's like when you start looking at that, you go, what? Everything's moving. There's energy in everything. Even in a rock, there's energy. There's energy there. It's not sitting there doing nothing. It's vibrating. So when you take the universe, you take the world we live in, and you destroy the ocean, the water, cut down all the trees, pollute the air, do all these nasty things to the environment, start killing off all the animals, you really are, in a true sense, killing the loving, healing, divine energy that surrounds you. You're pushing it away. You're destroying your own energy. Because when you go into nature, this is really offbeat here, but when you go into nature, why do you go to nature? To recharge. You go out in the boons, there's a waterfall, there's a stream, and the stress is gone. You're getting your energy back. You get your mojo, right? It's like, it's back. Here's what's odd. I've had a couple of card readings, Vedic readings, the charts, all that stuff. I've had the palm leaf reading, which we'll talk about someday in the future. I had all these different readings, and every reading that I had about past lives, every single one, 10 different sources, all came back to say that every time they looked at my past lives, when I died leaving in a rainbow body. Every single life they went back to. And like about half of those predictions said, even though I left, that I volunteered to come back to the wheel time and time and time again to suffer the pains and whatever it is that I'm supposed to to take on with no memory of ever having done anything before, having to achieve everything from scratch again every time, and then taking what I learned and teaching it. Now, that's a great story. You and I can't prove it. I can't prove it. I don't know if I want to believe it or not, but there's a part of me, if God came to me now and said, "You've done enough, go," I say, no, I still got, there's still people who need help. You got to help them. Use me. I can't abandon these people. So if I had a choice, I would have volunteered. And I would volunteer to keep coming back. Even though everybody, oh, I want to get out of this lifetime. I'm done. And I'm the only one going, excuse me? How can you leave when there's still people hurting? You know, being an old military guy, there's an old expression about leave no one behind. Somebody got killed, somebody got wounded. You got them. Or you died trying. So that's kind of the way I feel about this rainbow body experience. You help them. And there ain't no die trying. You just try through the pain and suffering. There's no dying to get out of this. But you got to help. Now, whether the story is true or not makes no difference in my behavior. My behavior is the same. I'm here to assist. I'm here to love. I'm here to teach.
Reverend Bill, I heard you say one time that there were things you learned during this experience that you haven't shared because people aren't ready for it. But maybe we are now. Is there anything that you can share?
When they are ready, Bill will build it. No, it's not my decision. When people are ready, let's put it this way, the mass. Individual people, yes, there are people I could tell, but not on a public broadcast, no.
Okay.
Knowing the future is not as much fun as it sounds. When you know somebody's going to be in a painful situation and you got to watch them and not tell them. Yeah. So there are times. So usually when I'm dealing with somebody and I know where something's going, I will choose a story that gives them a perspective on what they got to handle without telling them what it's going to handle. Like their mother's dying, I'll talk about, forgiveness and love. And, kind of tell, the whole time I'm telling stories, the stories are one thing. But if you ever come to one of my live events, it's not the story or the word so much as a transference of energy. I'm working their heart energy. I'm giving them love, and I'm trying to radiate that reflected back to others from them. I want them to look in a mirror and feel the love too. So just it sounds little, but it's big. Teaching people to self-love, not egotistical, I love me, I'm good, that's crap. We're not talking craziness. We're talking about you love you because you and God are one. You love your enemy because your enemy is you. You love your neighbor because you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I love me. I love my neighbor. It's supposed to be one. So when you get to the level of loving the one, you're not really loving yourself. You're loving all. But I teach people to start. You want to change the world? Yeah, my daughter's on drugs, and it's terrible for these people, right? And she stole from me and used my credit cards, and this, that. I'm afraid she's going to quit. I mean, 1,000 stories come to me every day. And I tell them all the same thing. You can't change that person. You can only change you. Change you. You change how you see her. And you also, by changing your frequency, your vibrations, you can't help but change others around you. So when I talk about changing others through vibrations, think about tuning forks. If I had this tuning fork and I go ding, and you got another one sitting over here, if it's the same frequency, eventually it's going to start vibrating over here. Don't have to hit it. It'll vibrate together. What's the word for that? There's a thing about when frequencies vibrate together, they become harmonious or somehow. There's a word for that. And on 60 Minutes, the TV news show, about 18 months ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, they had a thing on some guy that was a music guy, music and notes and frequencies. He's studying these frequencies from old chants and all that stuff. And he goes, this stuff is really spiritual. I wonder if it works for body. And he started working with sound frequencies and using sound frequencies, different ones that can kill cancer cells with sound frequencies. Music, kill cancer. Think about that. The medicine of the future is light, and light is frequency, and light is vibration, and light is love. Yogananda talked about the future was going to be electricity and light and all that stuff. Well, it's all the same thing. It's all the same.
You're the second person I've talked to that has said the future of medicine is light and sound. So
Absolutely.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm using that now. I'm using it now.
Well, Bill, I have many more questions for you. I want to talk in a future episode about healing, but thank you so much for all of the information that you've shared today.
Thank you.
Okay, I always like to know what you think. Reverend Bill always is very interesting. He's very entertaining. He has a lot of concepts that I'm not sure if my knowledge base is quite ready to grasp everything, but I always find that there are things in there that are really interesting and very wise. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you thought about this with Reverend Bill. Just go ahead and put it in the comments. Also, if you made it this far, I always love it if you can just put made it in the comments. And if you liked Reverend Bill, we actually did some earlier episodes with him where he talks about his near-death experience. So you may want to check those out. I'll also put links to those in the description. If you liked it, everybody, go ahead and give it a like. I really appreciate that. And most of all, I just appreciate you coming back and watching more of these episodes with me. I really love having you with me on this journey, this very fascinating and interesting journey. I'll see you all in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to BEYONDwithHeatherTesch to look for more episodes.